What's good, racing world? This is Mr. Matt Racing. My name's Matt Dobbs, and this is a new edition of Time Trial Tuesday. This past weekend, we were at Sonoma Raceway, the last road course of the season for the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and the NASCAR Cup Series. And out in wine country, we had to get out the broomsticks because Shane Van Gisbergen swept the weekend. But I gotta tell you, he had to earn it, despite the domination, in more ways than one. Let's just get right into it and tell you what I'm talking about. Let's start off with the Cup Series. Van Gisbergen, 8th win on the road courses, ties him with Tony Stewart for second most all time, leads 74 laps, but he had to hold off a hard charge from Chase Briscoe at the end. Briscoe got to the back bumper, but ultimately missed the swipe attempt at using the bumper on the 97. The win puts Van Gisbergen back into the top 16 in the point standings as far as making the chase is concerned. But there's no more road courses left in the whole season, including the chase, as I just mentioned a second ago. So with 8 races to go in the regular season, does Van Gisbergen make the chase? It's hard to say yes, unless Trackhouse Racing finds a way to improve as a whole organization. When you have Van Gisbergen, a driver who is still figuring out the ovals and getting better at it, as we've seen. When Van Gisbergen is the only driver in position to make the chase out of that organization, when you have a driver like Ross Chastain and a generational driver like Connor Zilisch, something is seriously wrong. Chastain is not even in the top 20 in points, and Zilisch, with all the bad luck he has had this year, is still sitting 33rd in the standings. What does that tell you about Trackhouse? It's tough to make up points and stay in a chase spot when you're stuck in the back of the field struggling with raw speed. And we're seeing that not out of just Van Gisbergen, but for the rest of Trackhouse. The road course killers started 1-2 on the final restart. Zilisch faded to 7th. And Van Gisbergen had a challenge from Chase Briscoe at the end of that race. And this is not a knock on Briscoe whatsoever, because he's not bad on the roads either. But it just shows that Trackhouse has an issue when the best road course racer in the world is struggling with the handling at the back half of a tire run where he normally excels, and is forced to hold off a hard-charging second-place driver, whether it be Briscoe or if it was anybody else in the field. So if this past weekend was any indication, there needs to be a drastic improvement from Van Gisbergen's team on the ovals and Trackhouse Racing in general. Otherwise, we will not see a Trackhouse driver in the chase this year. Now let's go to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Van Gisbergen kicked off his weekend sweep, 66 out of 79 laps led in that race. But again, he had to earn it. How? By stretching the fuel tank on one run in the last stage. Van Gisbergen successfully did just that, holding off teammate Connor Zilisch in the end. This race looked a lot more like a vintage Van Gisbergen whooping on the field, even with Zilisch in this race. And Zilisch has had Van Gisbergen's number as of late in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. So in the case of Zilisch, my question is this: did he set himself too far back? Well, in a way, yes, but he never had the race-winning pace that Van Gisbergen had. And the only reason that he closed up from over 4 seconds back to about a second and a half back in those last few laps was because Van Gisbergen was conserving fuel. If they were going the same pace as each other, Zilisch would not have been able to close up nearly that much. Zilisch set himself back early with a speeding penalty in the first stage in the first pit cycle, and he had started the race in the rear of the field as it was, from a bad qualifying effort. Very uncharacteristic. But from a general perspective, Van Gisbergen just used his technical skills on a more technical road course like Sonoma, and he just gave nobody a shot whatsoever. The only time Van Gisbergen didn't lead was during pit stop cycles. Nobody passed him one time under green, and just nobody could touch the 9 in general. So it wasn't so much as bad Zilisch as it was Van Gisbergen. It looked like 50-50 actually. It was about half Zilisch didn't have the race-winning pace, and half Van Gisbergen showing off his stuff like always. But you got to give both drivers credit equally, as they both pulled away from third place by over 16 seconds, even with Van Gisbergen conserving fuel at the end of the race. But with that being said, what did you guys think about the racing at Sonoma? Let me know in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like, share this video, subscribe for more content. It's totally free, greatly appreciate it, totally helps me out. And don't forget to hit the little bell that notifies you when I upload. And then stay tuned for Fast Friday as we get ready to return to Chicagoland Speedway after 7 years away. See this mic behind me right here? I got a new series coming soon. Stay tuned for details. And 100 subscriber event is coming very soon. I'll be doing a little giveaway. Stay tuned for details. Until then, see you on the road.